Hello, my name's Rusty Coones, and I have with me Michael Lichter, 45-year photographer. The man's been everywhere, worked with everybody and anybody that's in the business, cycle source, calendars, foreign mags. He's a writer. He's doing it all. How you doing, Michael?
Excellent. Thanks for having me, Rusty.
Glad to have you here, man. I've been trying to get this interview with you for a while here, man. I know you're a busy guy. You know, I'd like to go over everything from A to Z if it's okay with you. Kind of give
Absolutely.
people an idea of who you are and how you got into it. So I think maybe the best way, let's just go back to where you started with it 45 years ago. Can you tell
Well,
us how you got into photography and how it ended up being around motorcycles and all that?
actually, with the photography, started earlier than that. I was had a darkroom when I was 13 years old, and so I was pretty serious as a kid, and in there all hours of the night, and sometimes all night. And then with the motorcycles, I started riding Harleys in first introduced in '75. I had my first shovelhead in '76. And then I was just carrying my camera, taking pictures where I went, and of course ended up in Sturgis. And I sent some photos to Easy Riders, and I was working for other magazines at the time, and I was doing some things with bikes occasionally, but never with a bike magazine. And then after Sturgis '79, I sent a group of 10 black and white prints that I made in the darkroom, and I sent it into Easy Riders to look at and consider. And then I heard back that they wanted to publish 3 of them. And one of those was a photo that I'm very closely still associated with called Early Morning. And it's a prosthetic leg leaning up against the back tire of a panhead.
Yeah, I
And
love it.
black and white from City Park. That was one of them. And so they wrote back they were going to print 3 of them. And that was it. And I never sent anything else to them. I actually was kind of offended. I was going like, what's wrong with the other 7? And then it was quite a bit, maybe 6 months later or more, they wrote me and said, why haven't I sent any more material? And I said, well, didn't seem like you liked it very much. You only printed 3. And they say, oh, you don't understand. And so anyway, I did start sending and I started getting assignments from them. Uh, my first, I was doing assignments around Kansas and Nebraska, out to the Widowmaker in Utah, things like that. And then first big assignment was probably Sturgis in '81. Where that was a full assignment for a full week, and that was followed by going up to Calgary, Artistry and Iron, and Daytona, and started flying around, and then worked for them for over 40 years.
That's crazy. I was in there 81, man. That was my first time ever at Sturgis.
We'll have to go back
We
and
had to
see.
be running around the same circle because I was at City Park and all over the place too. You know?
Yeah, it's funny going back through old pictures. I became very close with Billy Lane, and I first saw him at a bike show, I think around 2001 in Charlotte. And I wanted to shoot at one of his bikes, and the editor didn't see it. And I said, this is important. I'm going to do it. He said, well, you can do it on your own time. So I did it at 2 a.m. and I shot a feature on it. And then the next year did 2. And the next year he was Builder of the Year. But I loved his work. But in going back through older pictures from the 90s, I think it was all of a sudden I came across a photo of Billy riding down Main Street, uh, next to his brother. I think it was like in '98 or something, just in photos. And maybe I'll find a picture of you in there.
That's crazy. Yeah, I know that in 81, I didn't know it, but when I was in City Park, I was riding my old panhead with ape hangers through the park, and I was wearing a white tank top, and I had blonde hair, and I had suspenders on. And somebody shot a picture of that, sent it In the Wind, and it was in the Wind #5.
We're gonna have to go back and check and see if it was either mine or Billy Tinney's. So,
Yeah, and it'll be, I mean, you'll see it, just the description I gave you, you won't
yeah,
miss it. You know
I'll
what I
have to
mean?
find that.
I was like 26 years old then, you know? I
Wow, that's
had
great.
no idea. I saw it like a year or something later, you know? But you've been to Sturgis how many times? 40?
42, I think.
And that's
I'm not sure
crazy.
this is. I think my 43rd, 42 or 43 coming
Wow.
up. I missed a couple of years. Started in '79. I actually went in '78 on my shovelhead, but it wasn't quite together on time. So I ended up going a week late, figuring surely there'll be a lot of people there. And there wasn't a motorcycle in sight. And I just kept riding up to Canada.
Wow. You know, I think Rod said he came to, the first time he ever went there was and saw Sturgis was 81 too, I think. And then he
Well,
started the chip in
eight-
82, didn't he?
82 was the first year of the chip because
Yeah,
City Park was closed after the
after 81.
extravaganza of 81.
You
Yeah.
know, the city park, that was crazy. There was all these hordes of people running around on acid and like just like woo all over all day and night. They had the signs and everything. You remember that?
Oh, I remember pulling into City Park, not realizing two squad cars were chasing me right to the entrance and grabbed me off my bike before I can get in. Yeah, it was pretty crazy times.
What was going on with that? Why were they chasing you?
Oh, just speeding. I didn't realize it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Didn't see him and just kept going.
yeah. And you know, people talk about, you know, there's over 500,000 people go to Sturgis, I think sometimes. Back on that year, they published that there was 13,500, I think, in
I
81.
know. It's
And it was
amazing.
wall to wall. Because it's such a small town, it looked like 500,000. You know,
But
it
it's
just
spread
didn't,
out.
yeah, it just didn't spread out at
Yeah,
that time.
now it's spread out all through the hills. But
Yeah. I think, what was that? There was one hotel or motel that had a swimming pool, indoor pool in that year.
I think that was over at exit 30. What was it called? Maybe in the Days Inn or something like that at exit
Yeah.
30.
Yeah. I remember staying there. They were packed.
Or Philtown. Philtown at exit 32 was there.
Yeah. Crazy. So in your career with motorcycles and photography, what was your first bike again?
71 Shovelhead that I still have. And
Mhm.
Billy remade it for me. He took it for 2 years and then surprised me. He asked me to meet him somewhere in Daytona, and I didn't realize it was for the bike because he'd had it for 2 years. And he had this, what is now my beautiful Billy Lane bobber from my 71 FX.
I imagine with his craftsmanship, I bet that thing looks good.
Yeah, it was one of his first two bobbers. First one was for himself, second one for me, and it's sort of my color is Kodak yellow, and he did that yellowy gold and one of his hand formed tanks. Pretty cool.
Nice, nice. And then you have a 77?
Nope, 71. I had a 70. Well, when my 71 was confiscated for bad numbers, I lost it for about 2 years, and in that time, I bought a 76, which I wish I still had. It was just a anniversary bagger. Had that for a while, and then really I didn't get anything until I had a 96 Road King, 95, 96 Road King, and I had that for over 20 years. I just got rid of it last year, and it finally went out. My son was encouraging me to get something different. I in Sturgis, it finally went to the point I said, okay, I'm going to let it go. And a friend took it off me. And BMW loaned me one of their R18s that had just been introduced a year and a half ago.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
they loaned that to me, and I rode it home and had it for a year. And
yeah.
it was a little bigger than I wanted, a little heavier and unwieldy. I returned it the following Sturgis, and I ended up with a Lowrider ST, which is what I have now.
Great bike.
Yeah.
Those things
I
handle good. I mean, they're just a great bike.
Yeah, I also have a RevTech pan little chopper, a rigid, that was presented to me quite some years ago. It was on my 30th anniversary, and I think it says 30 in the wind on the seat, hand formed seat, and it was pretty cool. It was when Sucker Punch was still in business, and everybody contributed to it. So Dave Perowitz did the flame paint job on it, and someone did some custom controls and all this stuff. So it's pretty cool. So I have that as well.
Right on, man. Perowitz is great people. You know,
Yep.
Jody and Dave, amazing. She's got like 16 titles out at Bonneville. Were you out there on any of those?
I've not photographed her at Bonneville yet.
Yeah.
I have photographed her at Sons of Speed because she does that as
Oh
well.
yeah, that's a big deal with her now. She loves that.
And I photographed her on the Cannonball and photographed her on the motorcycle chase. And I stayed at their house when she was 3 years old. So I
Wow.
go way back.
Now on that Sons of Speed thing, what is that? 13 days or something on
So you're thinking of the
the Cannonball? 13 days roughly.
coast to coast.
You stay on the whole thing?
I've done it 5 times. They've done it 5 times coast to coast. The sixth time I didn't do it, but that wasn't a coast to coast one. So I've done the 5 coast to coast, and I do them backwards. So I have a rider ride me, and I sit backwards, and that way I really get what I feel are the best pictures I can, and I do every mile backwards, even if I'm
How
going
are
to do
you?
it
What kind
after
of
hours,
seat? What are you sitting on when you're riding backwards?
whatever the
Kind of
bike
bike,
has.
whatever they
Oh,
got.
well, actually, the first year was pretty cool. In 2010, people may know of the Olsons, Carl and Matt Olson from Aberdeen, South Dakota, famous for their knucklehead work, especially. And Carl rode me coast to coast on the back of a 48 Pan. And for that, he actually took a seat and mounted it backwards. All the other backwards on a buddy seat. But
Yeah,
that particular year, he made a seat for me that was backwards. That was really cool.
that
Had
would be
little running
comfortable.
boards for me. Otherwise, my feet
Oh,
are
you
just,
had boards for your feet and everything, huh?
yeah, he really did it up great. And
That sounds like the way to do it, man.
that
Yeah,
was really cool. And but the other years, mostly I've got over 25,000 miles backwards. Um,
man, I don't know anybody that's done that.
I don't think so. Everybody encouraged me to do the Guinness records, but I realized it was such a hassle with paperwork, and it seemed like it was more about money, so I ended up dropping it. But I've ridden again 5 times coast to coast, ridden through Mexico backwards, Europe, Japan, kind of all over.
Damn. Are
Yeah,
you just now when you hit a bump, you can't see it coming. So
you can't see it
sometimes,
coming.
yeah.
Last week was a little tough, and again, it depends on the bike, and I pretty much jump on something when you
Whatever
find
they
what
got.
you can. Now for the Cannonball, I do find I have a rider, Dave Przgocki, that's been great, and he's ridden me 4 times and on the not on the chase, so 4 coast to coast, and so that's really nice to have the same rider. But usually I'm just picking up somebody where I go. Like last week we were in Tennessee at the Tennessee Motorcycles and Music Revival, a great event outside of Nashville. Done that a few times, and we did a ride with some of the builders, and for that, I got a rider, Mailman, who's a great rider. He's ridden me once before. And he borrowed a bike from a friend. And what was hard on that was it was sitting pretty low. And so my feet would have literally been on the ground to just sit normal. So I kind of put them on the rear pegs, which meant they're behind me. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
In a
that's
sense, I'm
uncomfortable.
leaning forward on an angle for an hour and a half, and I'm holding a 16-pound rig with a gyroscope on it.
Yeah,
And oh my God, I was sore for another day after that because every bump you hit, because your feet aren't under you, it's right on your coccyx. So
yeah, and
I was pretty,
your cantilever
exactly.
forward, that's got to be your back hurting and everything, huh? Your
It was
legs
tough,
start
but
cramping up.
everything starts cramping. But there was another time I was this was usually I'm not quite this candid on something so big because I was going on the El Diablo run in 2007, I believe it was, down to Mexico. And we left from Southern California, and everybody's meeting in a diner for breakfast. And they say kickstands up like, I don't remember, 8:39. I get there an hour earlier, and I kind of scope outside and see what's there. It's all these choppers. And then I see what was it? I think it was a Road King, actually. It was fairly stock looking. And I go, wow, I wonder whose that is. So I go in the diner and I'm asking around, anybody knows Road King, Blue Road King? And so he said, oh, yeah, he's in the back booth over there. So I go back and say, hey, is that your Road King? He says, yeah. I said, hey, man, I'm photographing this El Diablo run for Easy Riders, and I could really use a ride. Any chance I could ride with you? And he's thinking about it. He goes, well, I guess, And I go, oh, awesome. And and then he goes, like, how far do you want to go? I'm going like, well, yeah, I got to get there. So the whole way. And he says, and then what? And I go, well, then I got to get home. And then, oh, and by the way, I'll be sitting backwards. And like, he didn't really know what he got
He bit off more than he could chew there, huh?
Yeah, but you know what? It worked out great. I got
Yeah.
great photos, and we became friends. And we actually ran into each other like 3 years ago. We both ended up in Nepal together on a ride where we rode through Nepal for
That's crazy.
a dozen days.
You met him in Mexico, was it?
Well, I met him in Southern California on the way to Mexico. Yeah, we
Yeah.
rode through Mexico together.
Yeah.
And then I ran into him. I was on this Nepal trip a few years ago with
Wow.
Motorcycle Sherpa, and that was great.
Yeah, man. Been
Yeah,
all over the place, huh?
it opens the world. I've always loved to travel, and I'm interested in people and in culture. So, very early on, it was part of my interest in motorcycles as a subculture, and I started doing that around this country. But then there was the opportunity to travel abroad. I've been invited to Moon Eyes 7 times. Um, I've judged bike shows in Moscow, Russia twice, in Sweden a couple times, in Italy, uh, where else? Germany, Austria, Switzerland, kind of been all over. And it's wonderful. And especially the last 5.5 years, I've been working with my son, Sean. And so, what father can ask for anything more than to be working with their son, traveling around the world? We've been to Siberia in the middle of winter for ice racing and
Wow.
jumping in Lake Baikal, the deepest freshwater lake in the world. And this is like a 7-hour overnight flight from Moscow. That's how big the country is. And you're in the middle of Siberia in the winter with people from all over the
Little
world.
IFR, you can't see nothing while you're flying sometimes.
It's just, it's pretty lucky. I've been very lucky.
Hey, you were talking about the ice racing over there. What are they doing for the spikes on the tires over there?
Well, there's no rules. Anything goes. Now,
Right?
this was, of course, pre-COVID and also pre-Ukrainian war. So
Yeah.
I don't know what things are like now. I haven't been back. And I was only in Siberia the once.
Right.
But it was anything goes. And when I say anything, there was what's the car that made by Rolls-Royce, but not a Rolls-Royce?
Bentley?
There was a Bentley on tracks. Can you imagine somebody put a Bentley on tracks? And
That's
then
great.
there were what do they call the amphibious hovercraft?
Oh yeah.
Two
Big giant
hovercraft.
ones? Those
Yeah.
big, huge troop
Well,
carrying ones?
they were big, not like for hundreds of passengers, but big, right? And
Huh.
then there was a helicopter, and I mean, there was everything on ice. It was really cool. It was anything goes, and just they do things in a big way over there. So
Yeah.
it was pretty
How were
cool.
the people? Pretty cool?
The people were awesome. The
Yeah.
people were, especially the person that invited me, a close friend. He's just awesome. I see him around the world, and we've been to shows together in Italy and in Germany and all over. Go to
So if
Japan.
you take out of all the different experiences, all the countries, all the cultures, is there one that stands out more than all the rest?
You know, I think
It'd
it's
be hard
almost
to
like
qualify that, wouldn't it? Because you've got good here. I mean, different,
there's
different qualities.
so many different aspects to it. I mean, in a sense, people ask me what's your favorite photograph, and I say it's kind of like asking who's your favorite child. I mean,
Yeah.
you love them all in different ways and
Yeah.
different in different ways. And in terms of countries, I tend to lean towards more third world almost. I like where the culture can really be felt, where it's strong. I love traveling. I've been to Nepal, I think 4 times. Uh, the Sudan, I've been to the Sudan, Afghanistan. I spent a month and a half in Iran, uh, Tibet, amazing trip to Tibet. I mean, really all over. I love countries where you just everything smells stronger, tastes stronger. Uh, you feel everything all the time. Almost the reason why you ride a motorcycle. Like when you ride a motorcycle, I think motorcycles should be the biggest environmentalists because you're so conscious of your environment when you're on a bike, right? You know when you go over a bridge, the temperature drops about 8 or 9 degrees, right? You
That's
feel
right.
that
Yeah.
for those few seconds.
Yep.
So in that way, just that really strong sense of feeling and being alive. I think that's what it's about. Being in the moment and being alive.
Wow. Hey, let me ask you this. So you stand apart from most photographers. I mean, what is it that gives you that style, that edge that sets you apart from everybody else?
Well, I won't say, I'll leave that for other people as far as critiquing my work or what they make of it. As far as what makes me do what I do, I could say that I'm a perfectionist, for one. Perfectionists are usually never totally happy with what they do. Like you always find fault in a sense. So I'm always looking at my own work and looking at it again and again. And I've had assistants over the years, just leave it alone. It's good enough. And it's like, no, it's never good enough. You could always make it better. And there are times, of course, when, like with my limited edition prints, bingo, I seal it, it's done. That's how it's presented on a wall in a gallery. But otherwise, I'm always looking how to do it better. And like I said, I've been photographing bikes for 45 years, and every day I'm learning. I Even if I'm shooting a bike in a studio on a white background, you're always learning something new, a little different way of doing something, and trying to never rest on your laurels.
Yeah.
How can you make it better? So that's one thing. I also have a background where I had a very liberal arts background. I didn't actually graduate college, but spent years there and studied art and history. And I was really big into the idea of humanities, of like mixed studies and how they all tie together. So like I would take history of India, for example. And at the same time, I would be taking an art history class of Indian art. And it just made everything better. And I understood things more. It could be of Europe or the US or whatever it was. So, a desire to learn and to improve and to just keep going, one foot in front of the other and keep trying harder.
Well, I'll tell you, it's working for you, man, because you're the man when it comes to doing what you do. I mean, you're everywhere. I look at this event, that event, racing. I mean, anything to do with motorcycles, you're there or have been there. So I'm honored to have you on here. Really. You know, and
About staying interested.
Hmm?
It's all about staying interested, keeping it fresh.
Right? Yeah, you wouldn't be doing it because it's a lot of work. If you didn't love it, you wouldn't be doing it.
It's a lot of work, a lot of all-nighters, and even still, I'm
Yeah.
just
Heck,
got to
just
keep
riding on
going.
the back of those motorcycles like that's a backbreaker right there, man. You know. So tell me about you got a blog going on right now with DennisKirk.com. Can you
Yeah, well,
talk about that?
sure. I was 40 years with Easy Riders, and recently that I left them, and Dennis Kirk brought me on really sort of open-ended. We're not even sure where it's going, but they want me affiliated with them, and they let me do what I want to do, which is pretty much what I did for Easy Riders. So um, I've done about 40 features for them. And the nice part is that being digital, we get to put a lot of work up. So the events that I do now, we usually put 60 to 80 photographs online, which is a lot more than we could do in print. And I could do long form features where I write them, and oftentimes that could be 2,000 or 2,200 words compared to what could be 800 to 1,000 in a magazine. So that's been nice. We're adding some video components that Sean's doing with profiles, and we'll see where it goes. I'm excited that they're giving me the opportunity. And along with that, I could still sell my work elsewhere. I work with a lot of foreign magazines as well, and still work with Cyclosaurus, talking to other publishers as well here.
Wow. That's a hell of a resume you got going on there, man.
Yeah,
What
there's
about all
always
those what about all your coffee table books? How many of those do you have?
uh, 11 coffee table books about
Okay.
motorcycling,
Uh-huh.
and some are on builders. There's two on Sturgis, some just on assortment of bikes. There's one on I've done 22 curated 22 years of exhibitions, an annual exhibition in Sturgis, and I just gave that up. So I retired from that. The last I think 13, 14 years has been at the Buffalo Chip, where they actually built a 7,000 square foot gallery for me. So that's hosted it for all these years. But I have moved on from that. One of those, for example, and each year it was a different theme. So it wasn't like a bike show, it was an exhibition. So one year there was a cafe racer show. I called it Ton Up, um, which refers to doing 100 miles an hour on a small little bike on a cobblestone road in England with piles of shit all over it, which was quite fast at the time. But and that became a coffee table book that was then republished in German and French, in addition to the English version. And so really every year of those could have been a book. One time I did one called Naked Truth, where we had 38 custom bikes in the gallery with no paint and no finish on them. It was like
Ah, yeah.
just a field of raw metal. It was
Wow.
incredible. And so every year there were themes like that. I would come up with a theme and come up with a name. It was a really stupid idea. It's
That's a
like,
great idea. I like that. Naked truth, man. That
oh, that
makes
was a
sense.
good idea, but in terms of the whole thing, every year was like starting a new business. I came up with a new name, it was a new
Oh,
logo, all new builders, new artists involved. And I would show my work every 5 years and showcase other artists the other 4 years. So it was a lot of work. But like I said, I moved on from that. And back to the books, I don't know. I'd love to do another one in the next year or two. We'll see what happens. I still do a couple of calendars a year and just kind of never, I'm one of those people, I love to open an email to see what kind of opportunities are going to open up that day. Who's on the other end of the phone and what may be ringing.
And you do what you love, right?
I get to do what I love with my son, which is really cool.
Right on. You know what? This has been a great interview. Do you got anything else you want to add before we close it out?
I think we covered quite a bit. You're very good at this, Rusty.
Well, thank you very much, man. And you're very good at what you do. That's why I'm talking to you. I'm trying to talk to people that are relevant in all aspects of motorcycling. And when it comes to photography, you're the top guy, and I'm really glad we got this. And I just want to make sure that we cover every aspect of your life and what you do.
Well, thank you. I think you did a great job.
Okay, now one other thing though. How do people get a hold of you? How do they see your work?
One is on if they go to denniskirk.com, they click on blog, they'll see Lichter notes. So I have that whole section of their blog. That's one place where they see all the feature stories. Lichterphoto.com is where I put all my work. So everything goes up on there. We're working back in time. We have about the last 10 years, and I'm trying to work backwards year by year, re-editing, because it takes a tremendous amount of time to re-edit and keyword, which is what I'm trying to do with this, so people can find themselves and so that site stays relevant for years to come. Mm-hmm. And they can contact me through the site. Mike at lichterphoto.com is my email, and I'm pretty easy to find. I'm in the phone book in Boulder, Colorado. You'll probably see me on the next event.
Beautiful, man. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the honor of doing this with you.
And it's been an honor to do it with you, Rusty, and really a pleasure to get to know you here.
Thank you. I can't wait to see you. I got to have a beer or something with you in Sturgis. You know what I mean?
We got a date. Thank you very much.
I'll talk to you in a bit.
All right. Thanks.